Well, good afternoon, everyone, to really the continuation of your Young Leaders program. If I can have your attention,
if I can
please.
go around.
I know it's really tempting to talk to one another and sort of, enjoy one another's company, but we do have an amazing session for you. So I'm Chris Raval. I work for Faith in Leadership, and we'll be running a session tomorrow. I just want to, as people are kind of coming to their seats, just acknowledge my colleagues who you'll be hearing from tomorrow and friends. So Denny, do you want to just say hello and wave silently? And Rabbi Shoshana, wave. So you'll be hearing from them tomorrow afternoon. I also want to acknowledge in this room Ming Lee and Agnes. Where are you? Are they here yet? Ming Lee and Agnes, look, there they are, over there and over there. And you will see that there is a board and a pen, and they are depicting this conversation. So if you see yourself pictorially reflected on this big board, it's because you are absolutely a trailblazer, and we are pleased to hear from you. Talking of trailblazers, I have three amazing people that I'm sitting with. I'm hugely privileged to be with them. So I'm not going to introduce them because you're going to see a video of what they do and you're going to hear from them. And then we'll have the most compelling part of this this afternoon is your interaction with these extraordinary people. So I have Yasmin Jay, Father Fiel Pareja, and Reverend Chris Lee. So with that, roll VT.
All right, that has been a priest responding to Ariana Grande.
Sometimes you just need to care for them.
I've spoken a lot on my page about my love for fashion design and my journey. Hey girls, I get asked all the time, how did I become a fashion designer? So I thought I'd give you a little rundown.
Hi, this is Father Fiel Pareja. How can you make a difference or impact in the lives of other people? Sometimes you just need to care for them and assure them of your presence.
60-second sermon with Rev Chris here. I've been thinking about social media and obviously the way that I communicate online and get the gospel out there, and it's been a really exciting journey.
Well, thank you. Yes, show your appreciation. So for those of you who are not sure, this is a session on social media for social cohesion, in case you haven't worked it out. And you live in a social media age, right? And we were reflecting earlier that it could be used for so much good, but also for so much harm. And how do we use social media for the former, for good? And we have three outstanding examples of that. So for her keynote speech, can I invite Yasmin to take the floor? Give her a really loud welcome. Go, loud, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all for being here today, and I feel truly honoured to be speaking at the Young Leaders program. So today I'll be discussing how social media can be used to meaningfully engage and foster cohesion. So I'm someone who really likes to break things down to understand the core of what we're discussing. So I'm going to break this down into 4 parts. Part 1, what does social cohesion even mean? Part 2, the positives of social media. Part 3, the drawbacks of social media. And part 4, the verdict. Before I jump into it, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a second-generation Muslim Lebanese Australian. My background is modest fashion. I'm a fashion blogger and a lifestyle influencer, and I'm also a fashion designer. And I've actually just passed my 1-year anniversary of my line, Yasmin Jay, the label. Thank you. So what has made me who I am today is my past, my present, and my future. And at core, this all comes from my cultural background. So let's start off by asking ourselves, what does social cohesion mean and why is it so important? It's not a token word that should be used freely. It's something we should actively seek to facilitate and take part in. A social cohesive society is one which works towards the well-being of its members, fights exclusion and discrimination, creates a sense of belonging, promotes trust, and offers its members the opportunity to always move forward. And what's one of the most powerful tools right now to make this a reality? Social media. So there are currently 4.7 billion people using social media like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and alike. That's more than 50% of the world's population. That's pretty insane if you ask me. I was quite shocked actually when I saw the statistic. It's all about harnessing the digital space to direct ideas, energy, and awareness to address the challenges and misinformation that comes from building social cohesion. I will confidently say I'm very proud of my platform because I don't consider it just mine. It's a reflection of all the aspirational Muslim women who are trying to find their place in society, just like me. And that's why I love the concept of social cohesion. We're not asking people to tolerate or validate us. We're asking them to listen to us, to include us. It means we're different, but we're integrated. Now, moving on to part 2, my positive experience using social media. The internet is helping to create pathways of social cohesion in contemporary society, contributing to a stronger community. Young people are coming together in the realization that the future belongs to them and we better do something about it. The internet gives the youth a sense of empowerment, and I think we've seen the result of that through social networking via technology. Social media has been a place for people to share their thoughts, call out injustices, celebrate triumphs, and share experiences. Because it's such an open platform, it's been one of the most effective tools in holding brands, leaders, and nations into account. Social media can be a force for good, a place to build communities and create a sense of cultural togetherness and let people connect in different ways. Hashtag #MeToo, hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag Free Palestine are all examples of equality campaigns where social media has brought people together. These movements, to some degree, have all united people. They've created a sense of belonging and built a safe place and shed light on people's experiences to amplify their voices. I have been able to speak about these political issues on my page or while learning about them myself. And you're probably thinking, what would a fashion blogger know about politics? But I get to share the story from the other side and with my following. Now that's on a global scale. If we're looking on a local scale, my platform has allowed me to participate in many opportunities and break down stereotypes and introduce them to new communities. And I'll give you a few examples. So I was recently broadcasted in a detergent commercial called Nappy Sen. It's quite big in Australia. And this was me, a hijabi, visibly Muslim woman on a Western society broadcast nationally, And that was absolutely insane because that doesn't happen. I've worked with Australian brands, I've been interviewed and featured on their magazines, I've been invited to forums just like this, and local and international fashion weeks. I've gone to events that aren't usually diverse, and you can imagine I usually stand out quite a lot. I've debuted my fashion label, Yasmin Jay the label, at fashion weeks, and this gives me the opportunity to fuse my love and my faith in my work. Now, the people that are following me is what we call like-minded audiences. It means they are following me because to some degree, they can relate to my life or the content that I'm sharing. But when we get noticed by brands or communities or organisations that maybe historically wouldn't include a Muslim veiled woman, it shows we add value and that we are an important audience that should be recognised. It's great to see ourselves reflected in the industries we admire so much, whether it be fashion, art, cooking, or writing. We all need our place on the map. Now, let's move on to the drawbacks of social media. We've spoken about the positives, but unfortunately we all know there's a dark side to social media. With great power comes great responsibility. I know that I have been a symbol of representation for so many women, girls, and diverse people, and I have taken that responsibility very close to my heart. I know that I will continue to be a voice for young, diverse women through all of my unique challenges, and I will always push for a more welcoming, understanding, and diverse world in every possible way. Here, I would like to share with you a personal experience. It was during one of the fashion weeks that I was attending, and I was invited as a VIP guest. I was invited to watch this show front row, and of course I was super excited, really excited to share it with my online platform. As I was approaching my seat, a gentleman was assumed that I was going to be standing at the back. So as soon as I entered, he kind of just directed me, yep, right over there. But he didn't even ask to see my ticket. So he made an assumption. So let's really think about it for a moment. If I appeared in any other way, would he have made the same assumption? I don't think so. It's not an easy path, but it's one we have to walk on. The power of social media can also be dangerous. People can still be hurtful, racist, spread hate, or cause harm. As a Muslim woman, hijab is so personal and unique to my faith, and it's very visible. My second personal experience is within my own community. Even though there is so much good within communities, there is also that percentage in any community that does not allow you to express your identity, as it does not always match the cultural and traditional standards. As a second-generation Australian, my identity as a social media influencer is challenged as I'm trying to incorporate my individual identity of blending the West and the East together to make my own unique self. But this has come at a cost to myself being constantly bullied and attacked publicly on my own platforms and others for expressing my views of how I present myself. Either I'm too westernized, or I'm for my own community, or I'm too Arab for the Western community. Despite so many challenges, I know that I have been very fortunate to have had some extraordinary career experiences, and for that, I will be forever grateful. I am still incredibly dedicated to striving and working towards my career. Despite the handful of negative people, I am more driven than ever to show how a young hijabi Muslim woman can follow her dreams and stay true to what she believes in, and contribute to a growing, cohesive society. This week, I was actually further inspired by the honourable presence of the President of Singapore, Halima Jacob, someone in power who I can identify with. And just to touch point on this, growing up, I was never able to look on TV or the media or social media where I could see myself in someone. I never saw a hijabi woman in power on television. So starting my page, it was about I want young girls to see me and for them to know, even though I wear the hijab, doesn't mean that I can't travel where I want to travel, achieve what I want to achieve, be a successful businesswoman, be this, be that. You know, I want to break those stereotypes. I want to inspire people. And seeing the president wearing a hijab in such a powerful position was so inspiring. Now, for my verdict, part 4. While social media is such a great tool for reach, engagement, and sharing information, I don't expect a perfect score. There are drawbacks, and we can't change everyone, and that is okay. My hope is to see a strong local and international core of young leaders who are from all walks of life, who are well-versed and confident in addressing social cohesion issues. The only thing between us is a barrier. And by embracing social media, we can definitely break those stereotypes in building a cohesive society that we can be proud of. One we can leave for generations to come after us. No matter what your platform is or your position, how big or small your following is, whether it's social media or everyday life, embrace who you are and represent it proudly. Simply by doing that will inspire others. Even if you change one person's perspective, that's a success. And one more person joining our cohesive society. And at this point, I would like to acknowledge all of you, the ICCS, and the Singapore government for your leadership. An impact is an impact. We can all be influencers in our own way, and if you haven't, start today. Thank you.
Thank you. Just stay there. Just come forward. So that was terrific. Actually, Rev Chris mentioned this earlier about keeping the energy up. We don't want you just sitting here all the time. So I thought you could give a gift to Yasmin. Would you like to give a gift to Yasmin? Could you maybe give her an applause that she won't forget by standing up and then sitting down? So go ahead, in the middle. Go ahead, to Yasmin. Thank you. There you go. Thank you. So can I just ask you to look after this? Just thanks. All right. So we heard there, amongst many, many inspiring morsels. You'll be doing this a lot, I think, standing up just after every speaker. Though you don't want anyone falling asleep. Some of you have transgressed international travel lines, so we'll be doing that a lot. So, but half the Earth's population, more than half the Earth's population, are using social media. You talked about your awareness of being a symbol of responsibility, and then the perceptions. To some, you're too westernized. To others, you're too Arabic, and through that, you want to be you.
Definitely.
And so many of you, right, are in between so many different identities, so many worlds, and in that, the task is to be you. And your responsibility of being a role model and looking for role models, such as President Halima. Talking of role models, we have two outstanding gentlemen in uniform, and I am going to invite Father, please come and join us. So Father TikTok, I think he's known as. Yeah.
Wipe it down. 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 Wipe.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, each and every one of you. I'm Father Fiel Pareja. I'm from the Philippines. Where are my Filipino brothers and sisters here? Mabuhay. Salamat. So, they call me Father TikTok because I'm active on this Gen Z app, TikTok. And I am called Father TikTok for nothing, so let's do TikTok video. So, can you please stand? Okay, so what we'll do is I have already I have draft already here, so we will continue it. So you will go wild. I mean, you can raise, go wacky and all. Okay, so just be joyful as I continue this. So my phone will go round. So okay. So 1, 2. Let's. Okay, thank you so much. You can take your seats. So to this date and time, we have already 2.6 million followers on TikTok. To tell you a personal story, I have inferiority complex. So each video on my TikTok, I will film it like many times. I have many cuts because I'm nervous, I'm shy to face a camera. But then again, it all began during the pandemic. I was ordained February 14, 2020, and I was so on fire because a new priest will be excited to serve the people, to celebrate Mass, to celebrate the sacrament, to be with the people, to visit poor areas. But then pandemic comes. After a month of my ordination, what happened was I was so disappointed. Look at the fire of me. And then pandemic came, lockdown, no people outside. You are home quarantine. So what will I do? And then one of my nieces told me and encouraged me, Father, Uncle Father, there is this trending video on TikTok. You can do it. But I told my niece, because there's a stigma in our country that when you do TikTok, it's OA, it's only for, we call it Jejemon and all. It's because it's dancing, it's singing, it's drama, it's comedy. People then were stigmatized when you do TikTok. They will make laugh of you. They will make fun of you. But then I said to my niece, okay, let's try it. But let's put a twist. I'm a priest, so let's make it more instructional. So the video that you have watched is my first video that went viral on TikTok. And because the context is pandemic, on the comment section, if you will visit my first video, you can see people requesting for prayers. I lost my loved one due to COVID. Please pray for me because I lost my job. Please pray for me, I'm having anxiety. I'm depressed. Then I thought of, why not using this platform now to inspire people, to be with the people, so that they can feel the presence of God. So I posted numerous series of prayers, motivational messages, and all. But then again, if you chose to be on social media, prepare yourself. Because trolls, hates, discrimination will always be there. I receive comments like, go out of TikTok. This is worldly. Or you need to focus on the pulpit. Just celebrate the Mass. Social media is not your thing. Stop it. I didn't lose heart. I continue it because I am concerned with those people asking for prayers and guidance and inspiration due to pandemic. I continue, and today we have 2.6 million followers and counting. I say we have because it's not mine. It's for the people, the inspiration. The people are my inspiration why I do this account. And last 2021, TikTok acknowledges us by giving us this award, Rising Star Award. Not that alone, because TikTok awarded us also Top Educational Creator of the Year. In myself, at the back of my mind, these are just bonuses. Because it is clear to me that I need to use my influence, to use my voice in matter that I can and I will do. Going back, I am inferior. And it will take a lot of my time. It will eat a lot of my time just making a single video. That's why each video in my account is precious to me. Every time I do my video, I think of the reason why I do it. Talking about social media, going back to its original purpose, it's cohesion, to unite us all. But what's happening now is that people with power and money, and because of greed, try to hinder this cohesion. Instead of unity, they divide us. Each and every one of us here, I challenge you, join me to use our voices in social media for cohesion. It's an honor to be here. And speaking before you, I'm nervous, of course. I'm quite shaking. And I went here alone. I don't know what to do. This is my first international flight. I love challenging myself. And telling you my story is a healing for me. Facing many people, facing a camera is really a tough job for me to do. But every time I speak with my heart, every time that I see people like you listening to my story, it heals me. And it pushes me, it drives me, it fuels me to give more of myself. Social media is a safe space. That is the reason, the first reason. But now it becomes a dangerous space. A dangerous space wherein people are fighting, people are proliferating fake news, disinformation. And we have a huge role, each and every one of us here, to counter this attack, trying to snatch this original goal of social media, that is to unite us. Let us use our voice for cohesion. One TikTok at a time, you can inspire. One TikTok video at a time, you can educate. One TikTok video at a time, you can make a difference. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Father Fiel. I mean, could you tell he had social anxiety? I really don't think so. And you know, your standing ovation you had at the beginning, so we're not going to do it right now. But prayer through the platform of social media. The requirement to stand up to trolls. They could be trolls who don't like people of faith, but also people of faith who said this is not the medium through which you should conduct worship. So a resistance to change from faith communities themselves. That the purpose of social media is to unite, not to divide. And then the healing capacity of social media to overcome shyness. I hadn't thought of that. So original, and thank you for talking about the inspirational qualities of social media and some of the dangers. Okay, Rev Chris, over to you.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be with you all today. Brilliant. Thank you for that photo. I don't have those glasses on. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. Amazing colleagues who I've been privileged to speak with. So I'm Rev Chris. Sometimes I get called the internet's priest or the viral vicar or whatever you want to call it. But it's been a really crazy journey for me these last 5-6 years. I've amassed 183,000 or so followers on Instagram and 350 to 400 million views on YouTube. So how did I get here? When I was 21, I had a job in business. I had a mortgage. I had a kind of career path in front of me, and I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what life was for me, what I wanted to be. I was a bit unhappy. I had my heart broken. First love breaks your heart. And I kind of had this realization of like, I don't know who I am, and I don't know what's going on, and I needed to get out. So I quit my job in business. I put my house on the market, and I went to Tanzania. My parents were like, what are you doing with your life? And I lived in the bushland with the Maasai tribe for 3 years as a missionary. I found Christ, and I got ordained as a deacon in the Diocese of Mount Kilimanjaro when I was 24, one of the youngest priests in the Church of England at the time. My time over in Africa was amazing, and I could tell 1,000 stories of how God showed up and amazing different things. But I finished my time there. I was ordained as a deacon, and I felt compelled to come back to, in a sense, the West, to England as a missionary. That's what I felt. God said, go back. So I came back. I wanted to do more study as a priest, and I went to Cambridge University, and I met my wife. I saw her in lectures. I sat in lectures, and I was like, ooh, who's that? Pretty lady down there. And I remember running to the door to open the door for her and being like, hello, and she has no recollection of this at all. But we started to go out after a while, and we fell in love, and then we got married. And getting married, finishing training to be a priest, I got my first what's called a curacy in the church, where I was apprentice to a vicar. So I was training, and I ran a homeless ministry, and I was the priest in charge of the homeless. And it was an amazing kind of time of growth and learning and teaching of humility. And then that finished, and I became a vicar. And I got offered a job as a vicar. And I was terrified. I was still quite young. And suddenly I was in charge of 14,000 souls in my parish. And I was like, what am I going to do? And in that time, when I became the vicar, I asked my brother and sister-in-law, do you want to come and be with us in this church and help us to start this church and just support us? And at the same time, my brother-in-law, Ollie, was starting a YouTube channel called Korean Englishman. And it started to go quite well. And he said, would you like to come on my YouTube channel? And I was like, fine. And I think the first one, I'd come out of church, and he handed me some chicken. And he was like, eat this chicken. And I was like, oh, I can eat chicken all day. Lots of chicken here, which is really nice. Fried chicken. And so I just ate some chicken and talked about it. And that was my first YouTube. And people were like, who's this young priest on this channel? And then I started to come on the channel a bit more regularly. And I did one video particularly about South Korea, where the children in South Korea, or the students, they do a thing called the Sinem, which is a really, really difficult exam. And a lot of nervousness, a lot of anxiety goes into these young people, because they do this exam and they're literally ranked from whatever order they are, and you don't apply to university, you get your place on your ranking. And so it's really intense. So my heart went out in this YouTube video as I heard about this, and I said, oh, can I pray for the students? So I said a prayer on YouTube channel, and something connected with a lot of young people, and they were like, this guy cares, he's praying, he's a priest, he's YouTube, this is weird. And then people started to find me on Instagram and started to follow me, and the guys started another channel called Jolly, and I started to do cultural reacts, where I would come on as a priest and I would react to cultural stuff like music videos, like Billie Eilish music videos, and talk about mental health, react to Ariana Grande, God is a woman. What does a priest think about that kind of thing? And they throw me under the bus, on screen. And so I would try and talk about this in a non-judgmental, compassionate way, and try and help young people, or just whoever watched it, to have a different view of what the church could be and what a priest is and things like that, as well as trying to honor my decision as a priest. So that was that journey. And then I developed this thing called 60-second sermons. And it was basically no massive strategy. I'm not going to tell you I had this big form of what you can do and how you can make it. It was just one day thinking, wow, I've got all these followers online. I should try and preach and use my platform as a shining light in a rather superficial medium. So I thought, right, let me just do a sermon, but I've only got 60 seconds. So this was in the time where Instagram only gave you 60 seconds. So I was like, oh, how do I do a sermon in 60 seconds? I was like, oh, call it 60-second sermon. And then I just did it, and it took off, and that led to a lot more following and international recognition and stuff on TV and books and stuff. And it's kind of been this really strange journey that I've been on. And then the pandemic hit. Boom. And one of the major searches online in Europe was how to pray. How do I pray? And people were shaken. We've been shaken as a world. Our fragility, our humanity has been highlighted to us all. The structures we relied upon suddenly became, like we call it, maybe your idols start shaking a little bit. And people started asking bigger questions. And more people started following, more questions came in, more people started to share stuff that I was doing. It's been this crazy journey that I've been on. So one of the things I asked myself is why? Why are people following me? There's what happened during the pandemic is all my friends and loads of priests suddenly went online. I've been doing it for a while, but loads of people started to come online. And what they were doing, which I think is different to what I'm doing, was they were cut and paste their sermons online. Like if you follow some of the American pastors or people like that, they basically show their sermons online. And it's not as authentic. And I think young people are searching for authenticity. And I can't tell you what it is. It's like you see it and something hits you and you're like, that's it. And God's grace using me in a way that helps people to see and listen to me. I don't think I'm saying anything particularly new. I think it's perhaps the way that God has enabled me to say it. I don't know, differently or in a way that hits your spirit, but people have started to follow me and listen up. And that has been just this crazy, exciting journey. The other thing that I think is we're all tired. I think the world is tired, especially young people, are tired of being sold something. You're tired of the politicians who sell you something. There's a lot of oh, do I believe them? We've just got a new prime minister in the UK, and it's like, oh, okay, what's going to happen now? And you feel like you're constantly being sold something. And even in the church, sometimes I see some of my friends' stuff, and I'm like, ugh, I cringe a bit. Feel like a second-hand car salesman trying to generate you to come to church. Come, God has been showing up. There's been lots of miracles or something. And I'm like, nah, why are you selling me? Why do I have to sell you God? Where is the deep desire in us to really just go, I am loved, I'm a human, there is something greater. How do we get that across? And I think, I don't know, there's something in the way that I don't strategically write my thoughts out. I just record them as they come. So I'll be walking on my way to coffee, and I'll just do a video. I'll be like, oh, say something on fear. Oh, the Bible talks about don't be afraid more than anything else in the world. And there's a Bible verse for 365 things. I'll just say something, and it will come through, and I'll be able to speak on fear for someone, or anxiety, or prayer, or how God's presence is. And people have followed me, and it's been a really exciting kind of journey. The reality is, you have to kind of stop and define reality as well in our day and age. Who here has a smartphone? Hands up, you got a smartphone. I mean, I know I'm asking basically everyone, right? We've all got smartphones. Gone are the days of the preacher on the side of the street, really. And gone are those times. And smartphones, we're all on them. We all have them. I heard a statistic said that you're on average on your phone 4 hours a day. But that was before the pandemic. I think it's probably more than that. If we were to, I'm not going to embarrass you, but if you were to get your screen time out, I wonder how much it would be. Mine is pretty high. So I try and set settings that remind me, stop, to put them on. So we're all on our phones. And what is interesting is a young person coming into church, can sometimes feel a bit overwhelmed. Where do I sit? What are the readings? Do I have to follow a liturgy? What are the unspoken rules that I don't know about? It can be awkward if people are next to you like, hallelujah, and you're like, oh, what's that? And, or whatever it might be, crossing yourself and kneeling, and you just don't know what to do. But on your phone, there's something about feeling safe that I can get a message of the gospel in. So a student or a random, you'll be walking down the street scrolling. You'll be on the bus or in a tube, or maybe your lecture is boring and you're on your phone. But you feel safe in a way of being able to watch something. And we're used to watching something. So I can connect deeply, I think, and God has used this medium to speak into people's lives, to give them a sense of self, a sense of the fact that God loves them. And that has been an amazing tool that I've been able to utilize. And one day, I was kind of praying, and after one of our videos went viral, and it was millions of hits, and then you go in the comment section, and you're seeing all these people writing about, I'm not a believer, but he really moves me, and I'm just like, wow, how have I got this Sunday ministry? I'm a parish priest from a small church in West London, and yet I have this reach. I'm in Singapore, I got flown over, and now I'm speaking to you. It's a bit of a crazy journey. But why, God? What have you been doing? And I was reading my Bible one day, and I was kind of in this question time, well, what's going on? And I flicked to Acts, and in Acts 17, St. Paul goes to Athens. And in Athens, he goes up to this place called the, I can never say it right, Areopagus, I think it's called. And in Acts, really interesting. So St. Paul goes on the steps of the Areopagus. And it says this in the Bible. It says, he went to the place where the nations met, where they gathered together, and they discussed all the latest thoughts. And they did nothing, but they discussed and shared them. And I was like, this is social media. This is where the nations gather to discuss and share latest ideas. And I felt the Lord say, just do what St. Paul did. Be there and speak the gospel. St. Paul addressed the people, and he said, you are wise, you are searching. Let me tell you about the unknown God. Ooh, I get emotional, because it's like, that's what I felt called to. So I started to do that, and then, you have to be aware of the warnings. Mental health, massive problem in the world. There's a pandemic that we all, COVID-19, but there's a pandemic of mental health as well. And I knew that coming on to this, getting on social media and stuff, there is a degree in which it is can be really destructive. And you look out in the world, and I think the main problem that most of us ask ourselves is one of identity, like I did when I was 21. Like, who am I? I believe, as a Christian, I believe in the devil. Not just a metaphor, but an active force of evil. And the devil has always attacked identity. Adam and Eve in the garden. Oh, you'll be like God if you try this. Try and find your identity. You'll be like God. Or when the devil spoke to Jesus in the wilderness, in the desert, he attacked his identity. Oh, if you are the Son of God, turn this stone to bread. If you are. So he's kind of saying, if you do this, you will be the Son of God. You are what you do. And then he says, and he takes him to the top of the temple, and he says, throw yourself off the temple, and then you'll fall, but the angels will catch you, because you won't hurt your foot on a stone. And so the people will see you coming off the temple, and they'll say, you are the Messiah. So why don't you do that? You are what people say you are, he's saying. Attacking his identity as the Son of God. And the third thing he says, he takes him to the mountaintop, and he shows him the kingdoms of the world, and he says to him, bow down to me, and I will give you all of the worlds, the nations, and you will be, the king of the world. You are what you own, he's saying. And Jesus knew before this temptation happened, as he was baptized, it says, the voice of the Father says, you are my son. In you I'm well pleased. Before any of it, before any of his miracles, before any of his sacrifice or any of his teachings, you are my son. In you I am well pleased. He knew who he was. And I think identity is a real big thing for us today. And you see it like people either don't know where to lay their identity or they overstate it. They overstate their identity. They have all their, I'm a Capricorn, I'm a this, I'm a that, and my pronouns or whatever it is, or I'm vegan, or who knows. But they overstate it or they understate it. And we're just lacking a sense of a self of who we are as identity. So I'm going to keep going, I'm sorry. So there's a problem. Now, we can be part of that problem, cancel culture, fake news, sharing information, hate, being online and being defensive and against, or we can be part of the solution, looking to be cohesive, looking to love and care for one another. One of my friends, a Muslim imam in England, reached out to me a few years ago and he said, I love your account, I love what you're doing, I'm a young imam, I'm British youngest imam, can you give me some advice on how to do social media? And I was like, yeah, here we go. So we just had a conversation, we became friends. He's invited me to his mosque and I've been across, and he is the largest mosque in the UK. We broke his fast together, and it's just been a relationship that we've cultivated together. We have differences, you know? We have differences, like, I believe in Jesus Christ as the Son of God, who died for my sins. He doesn't. There are fundamental differences. Yet, we can love one another. I can learn from him. I can respect him. He can do the same for me. We can have dialogue and listening and learning. I'm a Franciscan Third Order member. St. Francis of Assisi went during the Fourth Crusade. It's a real time of pain between Muslims and Christians, atrocities on both sides. And St. Francis went and met the Sultan, they became friends. And St. Francis learned the 99 names of God from this imam, and he created a very famous Christian prayer based on that. We can learn from each other and listen to one another and still have confidence in our own belief. So I encourage you to do that. So be part of the solution. Do we want to be people who give in to trolls or hate speech? I've had other faiths that have come against me, my own faith has come against me. A young Muslim chap crashed one of my Instagram lives. He said, I'm going to crash this. And then he was like, and then he crashed it. And I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. He's better on the internet than I am. He knew what he was doing. But anyway, he crashed it. I've also had a Christian guy who set up a YouTube channel that calls me like the Antichrist priest. And I kind of found it was funny because it was just so weird. But, you know, you're going to have hate. You're going to have things like that. And I try not to feed them. The thing, as I draw to a close is each of us have an opportunity. We are made by a creative God. We are called to be creative. That's one of, you know, in the Bible it says you are made in the image of God. And one of his great images is being creative. So be creative. And often for a calling, you're going to have courage. Courage will make you choose. I had to quit my job, leave my house, leave my family, and go to Africa. You will have to have courage to step into calling often. But you're also called to be compassionate. Be creative in your spheres. I mean, look at these guys who are with me, with Yasmin with her amazing creative fashion line, and the priest who is afraid of like people and yet has this 2 million following. They're being creative with what they've given. That's the image bearing of God. That's what we're called to be. So be creative, have courage to step out, and seek to be loving. Choose love. That is a key for us as humans, to see the image of God in someone else, even when you disagree with them. Listen to them and honor them. And I think God smiles on us and loves us when we do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stay there, stay there. So do you want to give him a round of applause? Go ahead. Way! There you go. Thank you, Reverend Chris, or the viral vicar. I don't know that how I feel about that. But from your rich address, Reverend Chris, I noted that social media could be a platform through which you convey prayer, again, and care, a means to give the faith response to modern culture, including celebrity culture, which influences millions. He said, I use my platform to shine light through sometimes what is a superficial medium. So bringing dignity and depth to something that can be, and so often is, superficial. a fragile medium through which to highlight the bigger existential, the deeper questions. And then he says it's about being authentic and not selling. So he's not a salesman, but a means to convey love, another form of communication. And interestingly, again, this is a safe space. It may be even safer than a place of worship, which is very interesting. And then, yeah, social media as the place where people gather that can restore identity. And he wants to be part of the solution. So I was going to ask you each a question, but what I think is you've done a lot of listening, so I think it's time for you to talk. But before I invite questions from you, maybe turn to the group, to the people around you, so form small groups, and think about the following. What impressed you? What struck you about each of these speakers? What didn't you like from what you heard or what you saw, if there is any? And then what questions do you have, or points or comments do you have? So just groups of, say, 4 or 5. Let's just have some buzzwords, and then we'll carry on.
Well done, everyone.
Well done, yeah.
That was great, Yasmin, as well.
Thank you.